What the fiqh? Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to What the Fiqh. And I am joined once again.
With Mustaqeem.
Once again. We got to bring it back. It was so good the first time.
That was great. Yeah.
We had to bring it back for a second time.
Yeah.
Okay, full disclosure. What happened was, okay, we recorded a full podcast together. It was actually my second recording that I did. And some idiot that was just completely reckless and irresponsible
Shall remain unnamed.
remain anonymous. Okay, Abu Anonymous, we'll call him. Actually forgot to press the record button on the recorder.
Unprofessional, man. That was
So he's since been fired. So you don't have to worry about, you
Yeah.
won't be dealing with him any longer.
Very
Okay,
good.
I am his alter ego. Okay, shorter and darker than the past. But alhamdulillah, it's good to have you guys back.
Thanks for having us.
And what we'll pretty much do is kind of redo the podcast that we did before, because I think there were a lot of gems within it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot about your journey as artists that I think a lot of people might not know. And for those who are not familiar with yourselves, let's first of all introduce both of yourselves.
Okay.
So-
My name is Bilal Moore, and I am 18, and I am the rapper.
Okay, this is not like a marriage proposal. Putting
My
on your
name
whole
is
profile
Jabril
out there.
Moore. I have a stable income. I can support a
He
family.
doesn't. No, he can't.
My father's number is 647.
There we go. Okay, he's thinking ahead, bro.
Damn.
He's thinking ahead. He's
I mean,
thinking
hey.
ahead. Okay, so Jabril and Bilal that together comprise the group Mustaqeem.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we spoke about this last time, but what would you guys classify yourselves as?
Okay, so we grew up kind of listening to all different kinds of music. But I'd say primarily we're like hip hop, R&B, and pop. But then we do venture into certain sounds on different songs or whatever. So if you were to use one genre to like encompass all of it, I would just say pop would be.
Really?
Yeah. Would be
Okay.
what it is.
So not Nasheed.
Oh.
Astaghfirullah, brother.
Okay.
Astaghfirullah.
So the thing is like, you know,
Why'd you make the answer to that? Because it's so complicated. You
Yeah,
just
I
ask
don't
what
know.
would you define yourself as, that you start talking about genre.
Hey,
You
hey,
could have said
hey.
human being. You coulda said
I
anything.
define myself as flesh and bone. No, okay. No, the reason why we don't necessarily like going by Nasheed artists is just that it comes with a lot of connotations that aren't always positive. Especially when you're dealing with like younger people and let's say non-Muslims and stuff, and you say they're like, oh, what kind of music do you make? And you say Nasheed or religious music, right? Unfortunately, like a lot of people see religious music and stuff as corny and you know not up to par and of a lower standard and all that. So we kind of shy away from calling ourselves Nasheed artists, and instead, if people were ever to ask us, you know, what inspires your music, we'll always say, well, our religion, Islam, is a way of life, and
Right.
so we consider it more like we're Muslim artists or artists who are Muslim and not necessarily Nasheed artists.
Right.
Like, you know.
But I mean, and I did ask you this last time, I remember, but your music still is very much religiously inclined.
Yeah.
Like you mainly talk about religion, right? So aren't you just like Muslim gospel singers?
Well, not really though.
Why?
Because
That could be a new genre. Akhi. We can make that up right now.
Muslim gospel singers.
Muslim gospel. Yeah.
The thing is though, is that with our past stuff, that was true, where it was like very religious. So like we were Nasheed artists, but with the latest album we just dropped, I feel like we've taken like quite a big turn away from that.
Okay.
Where obviously there's nothing like non-Islamic in there, right? But like we have topics that aren't necessarily like you would find on Nasheed's like albums, like the Ramadan song, the Eid song,
Right,
song
right.
about the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right?
Yeah.
For example, we have a song called Blessings, right? Which is just about counting your blessings and like, what's the word?
Blessings. I
like-
think you
no,
just said
So
it.
like,
I guess like the relationship.
This is
a lot of
already
people
more
have.
words than you said last time, so I'm happy for you. You're doing a good job. I'm gonna move on over here. Go ahead.
No, yeah,
Continue.
so-
Pick up his thoughts.
Yeah, so that song, like you said, like counting your blessings and stuff, and also it's kind of like a commentary on a lot of people's relationship with money, especially in like, you know, religious community. A lot of people, they see like, you know, being rich or being wealthy as almost like a negative because, you know, you're not as pious, you're not, you know, like that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
Where there's nothing intrinsically wrong with wealth or anything. It's just what you do with it and whether you're grateful for it and stuff like that, right? So it's
So
kind
you
of
guys trying to make some real bread. That's what you're
that's
trying
what
to
I'm
say.
saying. So we say like in the song like we want to make money,
Right.
We're not like because
Right.
people whatever people be like, oh, I'm not in this for the money and not whatever. I mean, mashallah, like what I'm saying, but like I'm trying to eat. So
mashallah. But astaghfirullah.
Yeah,
Okay.
But yeah, so songs like that. We have another song called Jaded where it's kind of about the experience on social media where you could be scrolling down Instagram and see like videos of cats or whatever, and then all of a sudden the next thing is like a terrorist attack or something, and the weird kind of emotions that you go through where so quickly you're being fed such different information and stuff, right? Varying like seriousness and stuff, and it's kind of a lot of times people can get really jaded about that and decide to maybe just like shut off their feelings and become like immune to all of that. And so it's kind of stuff like that where it's again like what Bilal said, where it's topics that a lot of Nasheed artists don't necessarily touch upon, and it's not like saying like, oh, we're so unique and whatever, but it's just like we really want to sing about stuff that are relevant to us. And so if people were to ask us like again like were you guys to be Nasheed artists, I wouldn't say that would be the correct term to classify it, only because of what Nasheed artist means to a lot of people, like right now.
Yeah, but
right?
but in a way, you're just like conscious Nasheed artists.
I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Materialistic. That was the word I was
Materialistic.
looking for.
Okay, there you
I
go.
was looking for blessings.
got
Okay.
it back
I know.
It's late. Okay, my brain's not working.
And already used your word vocabulary
Exactly.
for the day. You've reached your word limit. So.
Cool.
Now we're just going past what you're normally used to, but so I mean that's cool, and I think for those people who may not be aware of your work, I think you guys are quite unique in the sense that you're also trying to, and this is I think a challenge that your generation is going to have. I say your generation because I'm really not from your generation. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
You
much
look
older.
like it, though.
I look like it, right? I'm still cool. I'm still hip. I'm still hop, right?
For sure.
Okay, but I think your generation specifically is really helping to kind of carve the Muslim narrative of what it means to be, young Muslims living in this day and age, right? Yeah. What you're talking about and expressing is the natural progression. It's like the logical progression of where nasheeds are supposed to end up going.
Yeah.
Right. Eventually, it's not just going to be like praise music. Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be, more about real life, about things that are happening in your lives. But what was that transition like? Because like you said, it wasn't always that way. It was more at the beginning. It was more kind of classic nasheed sense.
So, kind of like going back to kind of how we grew up, where we would listen to a lot of like, Native Dean, Zayn Bika, Sami Yusuf, Maher Zayn, all that stuff.
Dawood Warnsby,
yeah, for sure.
Shout out to the OG.
Yeah. And so when we first started making music, it was only natural where we were like, well, they're singing about this, so let's do the same thing. And we kind of would emulate it at first, right? And so when we started off, a lot of our topics would be in the same kind of realm. And it's only really until, they always say with younger artists where when you start off as a younger artist, your songs aren't very meaningful only because you don't have much to talk about.
Right. You don't have much
enough, right?
life experience.
And for us, we were like, 15 and like 12 homeschooled children. Yeah. Okay. So
you were the 12-year-old.
Yeah. So like what were we, so then
someone took my Lego.
So the only things we could talk about is just like the more standard stuff, right? But I mean now, I'm third year university. He's been in high school for a couple of years, and
How many
that
years
makes
you
it
been?
that makes it sound like I was extra in high school.
How many years you been in high school? Like 15 years?
No,
I've been in high school the regular amount of years I should have been
Doing
in
a
high
victory
school.
lap, huh? You just been going around campus.
grade 15.
Yeah.
Grade 15.
But no, yeah. So we have a little bit more experience, a little more insight into kind of like the lives of like Muslim youth and stuff. So the way we see it is, it's not that we're coming like we decided from one project to another that this time we're not going to be typical Nasheed artists. It was a very natural progression where we just wanted to talk about things that were directly relevant to us.
Sure.
And because our kind of target demographic is our demographic, we feel like a lot of people are able to resonate with what we were saying just because they related to it as well, right? So when we talk about, certain experiences with like social media and all that other nasheeds would never really touch upon, right? That resonates with them, and it's just us speaking naturally from like our experiences and stuff. So
that also leads into what the album is called that we still haven't said yet.
Yeah, give us more information on the album.
So the album is titled Jamtem, Jamtem.
yeah.
Jamtem.
Jamtem.
You
So
just make up a word, or
Nah, it's an acronym.
Okay.
For just allow me to express myself.
Oh.
Yes.
So basically, the whole vibe
Marketing.
of the whole vibe of the album is
Okay.
just self-expression.
Right.
So all the songs we talk about, or all the things we talk about in our songs, are just like you said, just what we go through,
Sure.
and just us.
And give me some more insight into your experiences, because I know, like you said, you have a very unique upbringing in
Yeah.
the sense that you guys were both homeschooled.
Yeah.
Right. So you didn't go through the corrupted harami public school system like the rest of us. You guys were, mashallah, given a chance of having a pure upbringing.
Mashallah, yeah.
And then now you've obviously gone into university. So how has that shaped your perspective in terms of your writing?
It definitely gave a lot of the topics that other artists would write about a lot more context. So for example, I remember Native Dean had a song called Drug Free, I believe it was, and I remember listening to that song and I'm like, why do they need to make a song about drugs? Because drugs are stupid, so why would anybody ever do it? Right? Like, it's very easy to not do it. It's only then when you're like, you know,
Are you saying you've done drugs?
I'm not saying that. Okay. It's
Do
only
you
then
have any for sale? Or?
it's only then when you're like, you know, you're in university and exam season hits and you see your friends starting to get really, really stressed out.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're starting to see the appeal now. And then you're realizing, well, maybe I shouldn't have been a judgmental 13-year-old who was homeschooled back then, right? And then also, it's just, you really, I guess, at the age you're at now, you start to process and really become a lot more introspective on the emotions that you're feeling like 5 years previous, right? So then, the like, you know, themes of like, let's say like insecurity and stuff that you have as a teenager, now that you're like kind of out of it, it starts to like make a little more sense, where like in the moment, it's always, especially teenage emotions, always feels like it's the end of the world with like everything, right? So in the moment, you aren't able to like process it and actually put things like to paper and stuff. So yeah, it's just going into the real world, I guess you can say, because we lived in like a bubble
Right.
for like a long time.
Well, you're still in the bubble, technically.
Well, no, because I
He's-
went to high school for 2 years.
Oh, did
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So he was
congratulations.
out of the
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the real world. Yeah. Sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so
And
like,
there's the internet, so
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're not really like completely cut off.
well, when we were younger, we really didn't have that much access to the
Yeah,
internet because
I
of
guess
our
so.
mom. But like,
Your mom, and you. By the way, your mom, mashallah, she did a good job, and she did something very hard to do.
yeah.
oh, definitely.
Which is
Yeah.
like, you know, like I wish, you know, I would have had a chance to homeschool my kids and kind of give them that, you know, there's up to a certain age, kids need that confidence, that sheltering,
Yeah.
because the world is a very, you know, it's a very scary and corrupted place, right? So, but we'll talk about that. I think it's an interesting perspective, because I don't know too many, you know, guys your age that have been homeschooled.
Yeah.
So I want to know a bit about that experience as well. But so now becoming, you know, more adapt to the real world, going out into school and stuff like that. Let me ask you this: who is your audience when you're making music? It's about Muslim-ish topics. Who would you say still is your main demographic you guys are targeting?
I personally, like, it's gonna sound kind of weird, but I don't really believe in targeted demographics for art necessarily, because we've kind of had a wide range of people being very receptive to our music and stuff, where you'd have like small children being like, you know, oh, I love you guys' music and stuff. They definitely aren't internalizing the lyrics. They just like the sound, right?
Right,
It
just
sounds,
like-
it sounds
they like-
good,
they like
right?
the bounce.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you'd have people around our age who relate to it a lot, and so they like it for that reason. Then you'd have like people who are older, who kind of appreciate the fact that we're talking about this, and they kind of appreciate the fact that, you know, there's music out there like this. It's not necessarily something that they had when they were younger, right? So it's different people connect to it for different reasons, and we kind of try to maintain a balance between all of that. Like, one thing that, you know, we kind of get a lot is people would kind of tell us before, which is weird, especially when we were younger, that like our lyrics were a little too like wordy and complex, right? Because they're thinking like we're 15 and 12 or whatever, and we're obviously talking to 15 and 12-year-olds. But like in our mind, it's not for anybody specifically. So if the 50-year-old guy likes it, that is like sick, like, you know, like
There's some
that kind of
50-year-old man listening to your music. It's kind of creepy. I don't know. Listen to 15-year-olds singing on the
Hey,
that's how
man.
Justin Bieber was discovered.
good music
True.
is good music. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
At the
Okay.
end of the day, like, it doesn't matter who listens to it. We make music because we want to,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
and it's about expressing ourselves.
Right.
because
So
I feel
whoever
artists
relates,
kind
relates.
of do this thing where when they find out, you find this a lot, like let's say with Justin Bieber, right? Where when he started off, it was like 12-year-old girls were like his fans. And then eventually it got to a point where he was like, that's super lame. Okay. I want like 30-year-old black dudes to bump my music in their car when they're rolling down the hood. You know what I'm saying?
Which
So
is
then,
never going to happen.
yeah. So then, but he tried to do a whole persona switch
Right,
to then
right.
get that, and then you lose your other fans, and you seem fake to the new people, and it's a whole thing, right? Where like, if you pay too much attention to who you want to listen to your music, and you're just not grateful for the fact that people are listening to it anyway, regardless of who it is, then you're gonna kind of lose touch with your whole, you know.
But isn't it
purpose,
just
right?
like, you know, hijabi girls, 12-year-olds
I mean, hey, okay.
represent? Hey, man, don't
They're-
neglect the audience though.
No,
they're there.
out there, and we appreciate you. Okay,
Okay.
definitely.
Do
But
you guys have like a name for your fans? You know, there's like the Biebers or the what do they call them? Believers.
Believers.
The
Yo, we're
Mustaqeemers.
not that popular, man.
No?
I don't know.
The
I don't know what you
Keemers.
think this is.
The Keemers.
But-
We can come up with one.
We're a good 100,000 followers away from having to do something like that.
Well,
So,
I mean,
you know.
by the way, when I saw you guys perform at Muslim Fest, you guys were like the headlining act. Like, you know, you were very like the very end of the show. You have like this big, and you have all these little, you know, I'm not insulting the fans, but you have like a lot of younger kids who are really excited. They come up to the front, they know the words, the lyrics, they're singing
Yeah, it's
along with
great.
you. Right, like that's cool. Like, and I didn't really see that with many other acts. And is it that you've just been around for long? Because you guys actually have been around for a while.
Yeah, it's
you
been
know,
a while,
even though you're young, you still, you know, you have been doing your thing for a while. Is it just these people have grown up with you, or they're just familiar with your work online?
We're very like concentrated locally, so we've been around. I think it's going on like 7 years now, actually. 6.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah.
So you were like 9 when you started, or
12.
12?
I'm not 15.
not that far off.
Yeah.
Okay.
But nah, so like we're very concentrated and stuff. So, you know, with places like Muslim Fest, numbers wise, we technically shouldn't have been more of a headlining thing, right? But the thing is, a lot of people in the community know us, so like they're very supportive and they want to see us win and stuff like that. I'm really grateful for that. So they kind of put us in a pretty good position, timing wise. And then like, you know, the fans and stuff, they definitely did grow up listening to our music and stuff, and have probably seen us perform in the area multiple times and all that. So it's a different kind of connection than like when an artist comes from overseas and like
Right.
that kind of stuff, because they've kind of like grew up with us like,
Right.
in person. So
And so give me the backstory now. So you guys started performing when you were very young.
Yeah.
What was the first performance you consciously remember doing
As Mustaqeem?
as human beings,
Okay,
as
well-
young men? Were you always? I know there was a third member, your
Yeah.
older brother. Okay, who, you know, we won't talk about him because I think there's gonna be a diss record you're gonna put out soon, right? So I don't want to spoil that for
we'll
other people.
spill the tea a little later. In the
Yeah,
podcast,
we'll talk
man,
about
don't
that
worry.
later, right? But I mean, as a group, when was the first time you guys performed?
Okay, well, go back like 10 years ago.
So you were really 9 then.
Yeah, pretty much. Our community would have like an Eid gathering at like some halls sometimes.
Specifically a black Eid gathering.
A black Eid gathering,
Right,
as we called it. And like all the people would just be like, "Oh, you guys can sing and rap. Go do something." So me and him went up, performed some Native Dean songs.
You
We
just did a
called
cover.
ourselves. We were a cover band. We called ourselves Little Dean.
Little Dean.
with our
Allahu
cousins
Akbar.
as well. They didn't do anything. They just looked at us
They're
on
just
stage.
background
Sorry.
dancers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My aunt gave me $5 after that performance, and ever since that day, I was hooked.
Then
That's why I
we was
performed.
chasing the bag.
That's it. That $5 went a long way.
Yeah,
That's like 500 1-cent candies.
exactly.
You were like a
There's
millionaire.
no such thing as 1 cent candies anymore.
Really? They took them away?
They've been gone for like 20 years now.
I never knew that was a thing.
Oh my. That's vulnerable they did on you guys, man. When I was young, we used to have 1-cent candies.
Bruh.
That's crazy, man.
And I'm not that old. It was
Inflation
like
is wild, man. I don't know what
yo,
to
it was
tell
like
you.
10 years ago. You could walk into a 7-Eleven and you get like 1-cent candies. and you just ball out.
They
Like
don't
you'd
even
have a
use
dollar
cents anymore. That's not even a thing.
I know.
anymore. Like,
Even pennies don't exist.
Yeah.
Subhanallah. Times are good. Times are changing, man.
Yeah.
It's all gonna be like Bitcoin and I don't know. It's a crazy time. So that was your first introduction. Was when you guys were young. When did you officially decide? Okay, we're gonna start writing our own music.
So, 2012, RAS, they had a talent contest, and our friends were like, "Yo, we're entering the talent contest. You guys should do it too." And my mom's like, "Yeah, you guys are doing it," because we used to sing around the house all the time, right?
Yeah, like constantly,
just all the time.
Probably super annoying, and we still are annoying, but like all the time.
We just like duet around the house and whatever. Like I can't sing for my life, but like him, our older brother, would just like sing around the house, right?
And he do the rap verses. So.
Yes.
Okay.
So we entered the contest, and we tied for first with Amel Elbaz.
Amel Elbaz. Yeah.
I can't
yeah.
speak right now.
English.
So anything. So we got to perform on the main stage at RAS.
Okay.
And that was like our third performance as a group.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. You guys
And that
must
was
have been
like
mad nervous.
that was
huh?
15,000 people. He
Yeah.
wasn't nervous because
never get nervous.
he didn't. I'm pretty sure he couldn't process like the gravity of the
He's
situation.
a little slow, so he didn't, he didn't know what was going on.
Nah,
Yeah,
he was like mad young, so like this is all like, oh, sick, like, you know, like whatever, right? My older brother, I seen, he was like freaking out. I was freaking out because he was freaking out, and then our dad was back there, and he's the kind of person to get like nervous for you. So then he's also like super tense, and I'm like, hey, should I be nervous? Like, what's going on? Whatever.
And I'm just like,
and he's like, oh, look at the lights.
Somebody give me $5 after. What's that?
and then after that, we got invited to like a few MSAs.
Yeah. Oh wait, quick
Around
side
the
note.
place.
In that competition as well was Mustafa the Poet.
Okay.
Which a lot of people don't know, and we actually beat him.
Oh, in your
And
face, Mustafa.
In your face, no.
You think you live? Nah, son.
But it's just kind of crazy to see, like, you know, where that, I think that was one of his first performances in front of an audience as well, right? And he was kind of nervous in that thing as well. And
Oh, you guys must have all been nervous. You guys were all really young.
oh yeah,
then.
yeah, because we were all like super, yeah. So
yeah.
it's just kind of crazy to see like how far he's come from like that same like situation and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So,
Mashallah.
mashallah, man.
MashaAllah.
He's out here killing it, yo.
Mashallah, mashallah.
Anyway, continue.
So then we got invited to like a few MSA dinners around the place, and
UTSC MSA was our first performance.
UTSC MSA.
yeah.
Okay. Shout out to University of Toronto Scarborough campus.
Nah,
the,
see, I go to Rice now, so
the-
we ain't showing them.
the third
They ops.
best of the University of Toronto's.
there's only 3. So
Hey, it's up there. Top 3 though.
top 3 though.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
And then we're like, okay, what do we do now? Because we're getting invited places, but we only had one song to perform, which was a cover of "Forgive Me" by Maher Zain, and the third lyric was swapped out for a rap my dad wrote, which I could not rap for my life, but you know, it's whatever.
So your dad was your ghostwriter at the
Yeah,
beginning.
pretty
For
much.
a little bit, yeah, for a hot minute,
For a
actually.
hot minute,
Wow.
right? And then who brought the name Mustaqeem? It was our aunt, right?
It was our aunt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at first, actually, we were, during the whole Riz competition, we were called We're Not a Boy Band. Just because
We're Not a
everyone
Boy
kept
Band.
calling us the Muslim One Direction or Muslim Jackson 5. And we're like, we're not a boy
The
band.
Jackson 5. That's great.
So
We were 3 of us. How are we the Jackson 5? That
they
was
just
racist.
saw black kids with
The more
afros and they like the
threes.
Jackson 5.
More threes.
The more threes, right?
Yeah.
So then we got Mustaqeem, and then we entered the Awakening Talent Contest when Harris J came out.
Oh,
of.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you were in that competition.
Yeah, we were.
And
JD
you didn't
as
win.
well.
No, we didn't win that time, sadly.
Here's what I'm gonna say though. Okay.
It was
hot
rigged?
take.
It was
hot
rigged.
take. It was not rigged, but they kind of knew going into the competition what kind of person they were trying to get. So I feel like they would never have actually picked us because
didn't
we
fit
were
the
like,
bill.
we were like, you know, they wanted a new
3
Justin
black
Bieber.
kids.
Okay, so like
okay.
it was a certain thing that they wanted to
Too
get.
dark.
Yeah.
Too short.
Yeah,
Sadly.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So then we made it to top 8 in there.
16.
16.
Oh, I remember
and
that was
that's
pretty
where-
big online. So there was
Yeah.
like a lot of people. It was like hundreds of people from around the world. You said Jadine was in it as well?
Yeah, JD,
Yeah, House of Halal,
Ali,
yeah.
Awada.
Oh, yeah. House of Halal. That's what they were
Yeah,
called
yeah.
back then. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
them. Okay.
Don't Google those videos. I look stupid in those. Like I didn't know what I was
In
doing.
the old Mustaqeem
In the
videos?
Awakening Records.
Okay.
Talent
yeah,
Contest
they're
videos. Oh, they're tragic.
Incredibly cringy.
Your dad was still ghostwriting at that time?
Yeah. No.
So he was going to get signed then as well.
Yeah, probably. Was it Dad? It was still Dad, right? No, because the last song we performed was the first original song we ever made, called "Only on the Inside."
Okay.
Song
Yeah.
Still slaps today.
Low key. Okay.
Low key, that's still a banger, huh?
Yeah. So we got top 16 there, and then from there we just grew and kept making more and more songs.
Yeah.
And then eventually our older brother left.
Oh, stuff.
So then, okay, so you
Let's
know what?
talk about that.
We
Let's talk about-
keep like to this day, man. To this day, people are like, "Where's your older brother?" I'm like, "Fam, it's been like 3 years, bro. Let it go." Okay?
We've dropped 2 albums without him.
Because
It's
the
been
only
like
thing
3.5 years.
because what happened was that we never actually ever did an official announcement. He just kind of dipped and then
He
started
just
performing without him.
just stopped showing up.
Yeah.
Because what happened is we performed at Muslim Fest, which is like August time. That was the last performance we did as a group. And then he just kind of stopped performing. And then we came back at March. So it was like a whole half a year
Right.
until we actually came back and started performing again.
Okay.
Just us two.
Yeah, because I remember actually, and I spoke to your mother about this, that I had contacted her about booking you guys for an Eid event that we had. I was part of a community center at that time. And then she told me, oh, no, they're not performing right now.
Yeah.
I think that was literally in the middle of that break.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me more. I mean, let's get the scoop, man. What happened with your brother?
It's funny because there's like multiple different narratives I've been telling people over the years.
Okay, so give us the true one then.
They're not lies.
It's a mix. It's a mix of a bunch of different factors. So one, so he's 2 years older than me and 5 years older than Bilal, right?
Okay.
So at the time, let's say he was 17
And I was 12.
I was 15, Bilal was 12. So he was like growing. He was a little more mature. And if you look at like some pictures back then, it's literally like Bilal and I. And then Yassine's like up here.
Yeah, because he was really
right?
tall.
So the kind of
I'm taller than him now, though.
So yeah, so it
Oh,
always
we caught
seemed
up.
like
We caught up, fool.
yeah, it always seemed like Yassine and his younger brothers. So then we were kind of like making the whole image seem a little more kiddie than he would have liked. On top of that, the kind of music he wanted to make was a lot more mature in subject matter wise than what we could do just because we were still like kids, right? And then on top of that, he also had pretty bad stage anxiety
Really?
and stuff. So, before performances, me and Bilal would be fine. And this guy's like hyperventilating
Really?
behind it. And then he'd go up on stage and then like kill it. And then afterwards, like, I'm never doing it again. And then next week, he'd be back again. Like,
I mean, well, it really is. And people that haven't performed or spoken in front of big crowds, I mean, it can really be a nerve-wracking
no,
thing.
yeah. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so it eventually just got to a point where all those factors kind of culminated to one big final, like, he's like...
And also, he was starting university at that time. No, he was starting... He went to high school
Yeah,
at that
he went to
time
high school as well.
And was trying to seriously focus on school and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Oh,
So
school schmool.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
I'm saying, like, education?
I mean,
That's for nerds.
you can do that on the streets. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. So he
Stay in school, kids.
So stay in school definitely. So he definitely was a memorable member of the group. It wasn't like
He was the head. He
was like
the
the face of the group for a while, right? So it did seem a little bit awkward that the head would remove from the body.
And another thing too is that because he was like the lead singer, right? So when we eventually performed, the whole time I was the beatboxer when he was like singing, right? And I'd do some backup harmonies, and nobody knew I could sing. Like, I would say at the start we could sing at the same level. It's just that I started beatboxing and he practiced the singing, so he got a lot better than me. So then it got to a point where me and Bilal were like, we wanted to perform. So then Mist was coming up, and we were just like, yo, we can perform at the award ceremony.
On
And
this guy.
I'll just on this guy.
Next.
And then so then I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna work on my vocals and I'm gonna sing. So then we performed. It went off better than we thought it would. We thought it was gonna be trash. And everyone was like, oh my god, you're real. I didn't know you could sing this whole time, whatever and stuff. So I kind of got the validation I needed, and we thought, okay, I guess we can kind of do it without him. The thing is, though, is that our image took a hit because, number one, people be racist. Okay, so unfortunately,
Our light-skinned king wasn't there.
yeah, exactly. Okay, that's what it was.
The light-skinned king.
So
I like that.
all the Arabs and the brown people and all that stuff, they loved Yassine. It made us a little more palatable before.
Okay. Did they think that he was just like?
Oh, they
like
thought he was
Arab
Moroccan.
or Moroccan.
They thought he was
Oh,
Moroccan
really?
the whole time, like for
Okay.
real. They thought he was
so
Moroccan.
people that
thought I
don't
was
know
Somali.
him, he's much lighter than you guys.
Yeah, he doesn't look like our sibling.
Yeah, he doesn't
like,
look
at
like.
all,
Yeah.
right?
We don't even look related. And he
That's-
looks even less related than us.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. So and then when he was with us, his music style was a lot more soul and like popish, right? Where we're more hip hop leaning, right?
Okay.
So then the music that we made after he left because I wasn't as good a singer, so I couldn't be like whoo and all that like high note junk. So we would do a little more hip hop. So then we all of a sudden became a lot more black.
Oh,
essentially.
Welcome,
And,
welcome to the club, brothers.
Exactly.
Welcome.
So, as people are probably aware, in this community, it's a lot more difficult to be
Black.
super black, and get bookings and stuff like that. So places that used to get us were like, could you either perform your old songs or like tone it down a bit, or
Really?
you know, all that.
They would
stuff.
say tone it down.
They still say
Oh,
tone it
definitely.
down.
They still say tone it down. We have- I'm not gonna say that. They still say.
You're supposed to put someone on blast.
No.
Don't expose them.
They-
Actually, go ahead, expose them. Go ahead.
people are still saying essentially to just like, you know, keep it down there, and it really is just because our lyrics never changed. We never got any more waste or any of that. It's just hip hop, and people get uncomfortable with that because before it used to be a pop R&B song, and then Bilal would come in and rap, right?
Okay.
And now it's more of a hip hop R&B song, and I'd come in and sing like a pop hook or something. So the balance kind of
Sure.
shifted a little bit, yeah. So, you know, it was a little bit difficult at first to kind of adjust, and because we never put out an official announcement, people would still invite us, being like,
Just
the
make
three
it go
of
out,
you,
please. Yassine, show up. Please, Yassine,
Yeah.
show up.
the three of you, can you guys
Yeah.
come out here or whatever? Be like, there's just two of us now, and it's been like years, and still people are in our
ask.
comments, yo, where's your third brother? Where's your older brother? Where's whatever? And I'm like, we look completely different from then, right? Like completely. Like I used to have a mini afro. Bilal was
look the
significantly shorter than me.
I
Okay.
just grew in height.
You
Yeah.
became taller than everyone. How did that
Yeah.
happen? You went
Yeah.
from the shortest to the tallest. Oh, interesting.
And so like, you know, it's just
And
it's
also,
kind of an ever present
while he was still in the group but not performing, we hadn't performed for like 6 months, so everyone just thought we stopped.
Yeah,
So no one
completely.
actually, because people kept asking and we kept turning it down, right, for like a while. So
Yeah.
everyone's just like, okay, they quit, like they're done now.
They gave
right?
up.
They gave
Yeah.
up.
And
But,
what was
yeah.
kind of whack about that situation was that, you know, that was like right after the Awakening contest and stuff, and we were actually getting like we toured with
was
Maher
it?
Zain. It was like not right after, but like
Oh, so you
following
had
that.
some buzz.
So we had buzz,
Yeah,
we had a
we were
pretty good
actually
following
growing.
and stuff, and then we just kind of killed it
Oh wow.
completely for like. A
So
good
was
6 months and
Yassine a
stuff.
part of the Awakening?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was all
attempt?
there.
Okay.
It was all there. We toured with Maher Zain around Ontario for a bit, and we were growing. Then we did a Muslim Fest performance at like 5 p.m.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And on that same year, Zayn Bika brought me up to do one of his raps for him
Oh wow.
because I memorized that one. And
yeah.
Dowd Warnsby and
Dowd Warnsby, Native Dean, and Zayn Bika all did their song, and I was like
beatboxing for them and stuff like that, right? So that was the peak. We were going up, and then he left, and we kind of went like below zero when we started back up.
What does below zero look like?
Because we were trying to like, it's not like there's new people coming up. It was like new people trying to build back up a reputation
Right.
that people already expected from us, but we were like not there because we were so different.
We were completely different.
We were
yeah.
completely different, but people still expected something.
You were like
of
the
same.
Toronto Raptors without Kawhi.
Kind of, yeah.
But not to
exactly.
say
Except-
you're not skilled. You are very skilled. You're
No,
like
but
the
this
Kyle
is the-
Lowry.
Like the
of
Kyle
the
Lowry.
equation.
To be fair, actually, like at the time, especially with our first album, Yassine would do a lot of the lyric writing,
Yeah.
melody creation, production. He did like almost all the production in terms
Right.
of like mixing and stuff. So he was like, out of the three of us, he was like 50% of the effort being like put in.
50,
Yeah,
like 65.
like yeah, a lot. Like he did a lot of it, right? And so what ended up happening was that I had to step up like big time and like learn how to produce. We had to
So
learn
he
how to
didn't even
write.
want to help out. He didn't even want to like.
He was doing his own music at the
Oh.
time, right?
Not really. He
But
stopped.
he didn't even release anything.
Well, he did. He
Yes.
actually did.
Oh,
He's
he
been
did?
releasing things for years.
Is he?
It's,
Okay.
it's incognito.
It's
though.
incognito.
Is it
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
He's
yeah.
everything's unlisted on YouTube or what? Is he
No,
making
like,
them?
he puts it out and like puts it on streaming services and stuff like that. But he goes under Yase now, Yase.
Is it okay? I
Yeah,
never heard of
yeah,
that. Okay,
yeah,
I never knew
yeah.
that.
His stuff is really good. You should check it out. It's actually
Okay.
pretty fire.
But he doesn't perform.
Yeah.
Why-
he doesn't advertise it
Still
either.
the anxiety type
Yeah,
of thing.
So he just
Yeah.
makes music, puts it out, and then just leaves it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a weird guy, huh?
And then also too, you
Very
know, like
strange.
sibling rivalry. So
Okay.
then it's like he's making his stuff. So I'm like, I don't need your help, man. I'll do it myself. So like, you know,
Is that awkward at dinner time when
No.
you're like, hey, screw you, buddy, you just left us hanging?
we have because the thing is like at first it was like, you know, like come on, man, like come on, right? But then we got it. Right, because a lot of people don't see like the behind the scenes and stuff like that, and it was better for him. Like it didn't, and also in hindsight, like our performances are a lot better than
Really?
before, like a lot better, because we'd want to do things and he'd be like, I'm not doing that, because he just couldn't handle it. Like we'd want to do like skits on stage, like beatboxing skits and whatever, and he'd be like, no, just keep it simple. We're gonna stand here in a line and we're gonna perform, okay, and that's it, right?
You're the ones two-step.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So now that you guys are at where you're at, you have this album you've released. Do you see yourselves trying to enter more of the mainstream market? Is that the ambition or the goal, is to become more established mainstream artists?
I don't think that's the goal, but like if it happens, then
That's sick. Yeah. I feel like for us, being quote unquote Muslim artists and that whole whatever you want to call it, what a lot of us in like the industry kind of lack is that the music quality and like just the general artistry is kind of not up to par with a lot of the mainstream stuff, right? And because I kind of realized, and I talked to like a lot of my friends who are like Muslim but don't listen to Nasheeds, and like even like some of my non-Muslim friends, and they'd always say like, they're not against the lyrics being wholesome or meaningful or whatever. Nobody's against that. It's just that the music isn't that good. Like
So it's more the backing.
it's more because like if you think about it, right, like a lot of the songs that are popular, they're saying complete nonsense, right? And it's popular because the song sounds good. So then you could apply the same logic and be like, you can say something meaningful, and if it sounds just as good, the people who wouldn't usually listen to that would still want to listen to that, right? So for me, like my goal is, and alhamdulillah, we've kind of achieved that with this project, is that when I'd go to my non-Muslim friends on campus at like Ryerson and stuff, and I'd show them the songs, they'd be like, yo, this slaps, right? And that would be like the ultimate validation for me, because they're listening to all the other artists as well, right? All like the mainstream, like Billboard Hot 100, like whatever, right? And if they think it's good, then, and they'd actually like choose to like add it to their playlist and listen to it on repeat or whatever, that means that like anybody would think it's good. Sure. And then we have a way to just make our music so much more accessible to everybody else, right? Because for me, like, I see a lot of Nasheed artists kind of doing this thing where it's the meaning first, right? And that's commendable, but the thing is that they'll do that and then kind of complain that, not a lot of people are respecting their art or aren't listening to their songs, right? Be like, why are you listening to Drake but you're not listening to me? Because Drake sounds good, man. I don't know what to tell you, what. So when people kind of do that, they're kind of missing out on the fact that music is an art form where primarily it's about the sound, right? You have the sound, you have your message, and you use the sound as like a packaging to get it somewhere, right? If your packaging is off, it might as well be a khutbah, just with the rhythm to it, right? And if people want to listen to khutbahs, they can listen to khutbahs.
That'd be a sick khutbah, though.
Yeah.
I would definitely stay for that Friday prayer.
Yeah, but like, so if you're just any some like advice, like upcoming artists and stuff, like Nasheed artists and stuff, writing Nasheeds, it's very easy to hit a bunch of buzzwords and make something pseudo deep, where if you say war is bad and we need peace in the land, or else I'm gonna be sad, whatever, then it's like, okay, cool, technically that is meaningful, and it could be very deep, they have a lot of context to it or whatever, but like people see through that very, very easily. And then if you're like backing instrumental or your vocals or your flow or whatever is all whack, then people don't care what you're saying. If it's like, you can have a song where it's like, oh, free Palestine and all that, and that's great, but you're still making music, and people forget that, right?
Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, how deep can you really get being limited by trying to keep a rhythm and a flow
By
and
16
stuff like
bars
that?
and
like,
chorus.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like you can get pretty deep. Don't get me wrong, like you get like really deep, but at the end of the day, someone just giving a speech and just talking will always be able
Like
to have
a
more
lecture,
freedom.
yeah,
like a lecture would always be more
Well,
deep.
I know, like, even for myself, writing spoken word
Yeah.
is very different than, like, for example, I'll write Nasheed. Like, I've written Nasheeds for Ilyas in the past and stuff, right? And for me, it's very difficult to have substance when you are trying to write to a song.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Because there's just not much to work with. In fact, you can't even use words with more than like 3 syllables, right? It has to be very limited even in the way you say it, because it has to rhyme, it has to fit, and then fit within this very tiny structure.
Yeah.
So definitely I can relate to that. I think it's interesting, though, that you guys have taken this route, and obviously it's something that you've been doing for many years. Let me ask you: do you guys use instruments in your backings, or like what is your opinion around that?
So when we started off, we were a vocals only group where I would just beatbox, he would rap, my older brother would sing, and it was never really out of like kind of like a religious thing as why we would do it. It's just we didn't have access to instruments, and it turns out like I could beatbox, so like we decided to do that because there was a cool like novelty to it. And so naturally, like what would happen is that we would do that and perform them. Like, hey, when we make songs, they would sing, and then I'd have like a beatbox accompaniment behind it, and then it's like, oh, let me just add some harmony vocals, and then it kind of naturally evolved into being like an a cappella song, right? And then what was interesting was that because there are other a cappella Nasheed artists around like this, like Ilyas and stuff. And so when we started, we kept like pushing the envelope of what the human voice was like capable of in terms of making it sound as much like music as possible, right? Because we were kind of in this thing where, when we performed, we wanted it to bang, but then our brand was linked with being vocals only, right? And it was really only until like later that we realized how much people cared about things being vocals only. Like we actually didn't know that was a thing really, like before
when we started.
And then it's when like when we put out a song and then people be like, oh, thank you for making it vocals only, it's a good thing you're not doing haram instruments, whatever. It's not like a good thing you're not being like harami like Sami Yusuf or like stuff like that. And we're like, wait, is that serious? Like,
so you didn't even realize there was a differentiation?
No. And so we just kept progressing with like the vocals only stuff, and it kind of got to a point on our last project where we would do like, we would take a sound, so like that, and just break it down, add a bunch of effects to it, remold it, and it would sound like a drum or something. Or when you go like, it sounds like a drum hi-hat, right? And all this different stuff, we'd like do like heavy vocal processing on like the vocal loops and stuff. And then we started getting comments from people being like, brother, this sounds like music. And then we'd be like, well, it isn't. And they're like, well, I don't care because it has the same effect as music. So then we were kind of like, well, what do you want? Because we're trying to make the music as good as possible with still trying to do vocals only. And it takes like 10 times as long to make a beat doing vocals only as it does using like instruments, right?
Sure, yeah.
So we were kind of it was kind of a lost cause basically that we kind of ran into because we were doing all that. It was a lot more expensive, only for people to turn around and be like, well, it sounds like music anyway, right? And then the people, a lot of our fan base as well, we realized actually didn't care because like we'd perform places and we'd be like, oh, just so you know, the songs are vocals only. And then you'd hear people in the audience be like, so? Like, whatever. Or they'd be like, wow, I actually didn't know at all this entire time, right? So then it turned out kind of a situation where we were kind of doing a lot to kind of cater to a minority that was giving us a really hard time on our thing. And I used the analogy of like, you have a vegan restaurant, right? And you have a burger, right? That's not made out of meat, but you try your very hardest to make it taste like meat because you want to provide the best possible alternative, right? And then you have vegans coming into the store and being like, okay, this tastes exactly like meat. I don't believe you that it's like, I don't believe that it's not meat. So then they ask, well, what's in it? And then you explain, and like, so if we're using like for our music, they'd be like, what's in the beat? And I'd be like, well, we use vocal processing, we use this plugin, we use that sound effect, we use reverb, blah, 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 whatever. And then they're like, well, I don't know what that means, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not music producers, so they wouldn't understand
exactly.
it.
So it's like if with like the vegan analogy where they'll come in and you'll say, well, the patty's made out of like quinoa and beans and whatever, and they'd be like, I don't know what quinoa is. Right. So then how are you trying to do all of this and cater to somebody who's not even educated in the thing that they believe so passionately about that they'll do hate comments and all this stuff and tell you you're going to hell, but they don't really know the details of it in the first place, right? So it was this whole thing where it was stressing us out a lot, and we talked to our grandfather and he was just like, just stop then, like, So then we did the switch, there was the tip, like a lot of the times artists will do like a announcement video of like, oh, why I'm switching over to instruments. And then they'll get like bare hate comments and all this stuff. And we decided like, we're not going to do that. We're just going to take vocals only out of the title and just kind of, put it out. And we got some, backlash or whatever. It wasn't anything like spiteful or anything like that. It was just like, oh, why? And then whatever. And we'd explain it and stuff. And now what's happening is that we're getting comments by people saying, oh, can you make a vocals only version? And the thing is that I always think when people ask that is that, like, if it was a vocals only version of, let's say, our song Two Face, it wouldn't sound as good. Like, it probably wouldn't, because especially
a lot of people
hip-hop,
do. A lot of people do vocals only. Like Mahrazain does vocals only. He'll do like a vocal only cover of another song.
Yeah. But like, his vocal only songs don't sound the same as his
And
as the
it's-
regular.
you don't think they sound as good.
it's different. And especially with hip-hop, like, weird, like Two Face is like a trap song, right? Like sounding. So you have 808s, you have all that stuff. You just can't recreate that vocally, and it's gonna turn into a different thing,
Song.
right? It's gonna turn into a different thing. So like, let's say with like Ilyas, he's able to kind of do that where his songs are a lot more melodic, so it's easier like that, right? But if you're trying to do like a 808 kind of like just speaker knocking kind of thing, then it's just not humanly possible to be able to do that and stuff. So
You said you spoke with your grandfather. We didn't mention him yet, but he's the OG. So we gotta show respect to him, and I think this is very important to also equate the fact that you did have some scholarly input. It wasn't just a decision, like a brass decision you guys made on your own.
Yeah.
So your grandfather is Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is, if you're watching this, you don't know who Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick is, you probably shouldn't be watching this. You probably just go do something else, because he's like our Sheikh. He's like, one of the founding fathers of da'wah in the West. He's one of the first graduates of the Islamic University of Medina from the West, and a wealth of knowledge, a massive wealth of knowledge. So, and he believes, and he follows the opinion that musical instruments are permissible, right? So that's interesting, because I think for a lot of people, this discussion is very black and white.
Yeah.
Right. For some people, it's like, it's either this or it's either that. But there are big shuyukh, big scholars who, don't see any problem with it, especially in the context of what you guys are doing, which is still, faith inspired music. And as an artist myself, I've always stayed away from instruments, just because personally I disagree, and I do see the other side of the argument, and for me it's just one of those things that I'd rather just be on the safe side. I never really made a fuss. It's not one of those things I'll ever argue with people about. You know what I mean? It's like people who eat zabiha meat versus non-zabiha. I'm one of those haramis, right? I eat ahl kitab. I go to McDonald's, right? And I know there are a lot of people watching who'd be like, no way, brother, there's no way it's permissible. And it's one of those things I've just grown up and I've been mature enough to realize, like, look, I have my evidence, you have your evidence, I have my belief, you have your belief. It's okay. Like, we can still coexist. Right? And I think that's one of the things that even as a community, we need to kind of become more mature about.
Exactly.
Right? Which is understanding that there are differences. And I also think that what you guys do, although you may not see it this way, is a great transition for a lot of people. Which is, it's like a backhanded compliment, because I used to get that myself. But I'll give you an example. Like, for myself, I used to listen to music when I was young, but it used to be like really grimy music. Like, I'm like a 90s hip hop head, like Mobb Deep, Nas, like that's where my head was, right? That's what I grew up listening to. And I remember when I tried to make the transition away from that, it wasn't just overnight. It was like, first I started listening to a lot of more kind of like old school soul music. I used to love Kanye West. I used to love the samples that he used. So I used to go back and listen to the actual songs that he was sampling. And then from there, I got more inspired. I used to listen to a lot of Afrobeat. I used to listen to a lot of kind of world music. And then I stumbled upon people like Sami Yusuf and a lot of different nasheeds that were like sheerly instrument based. But it was a great introduction for me to kind of feel like, hey, connected. Like, they're talking about something that I would love to get closer to and think more about. And then from there, it ended up becoming like, okay, I ended up not really needing nasheed at all or needing music at all. Even to this day, I don't listen to music. I don't listen to anything, right? Just because I'm not really like, I listen to other stuff. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of different things. But all that to say that and it might sound like a backhanded compliment, but your music can also be a major source of inspiration for people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially for young kids and people who are, they're already listening to everything.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us sometimes we're in this naive bubble where we think our kids are, mashallah, all my child does is listen to Sudais and Hudayfi, and they just go between the two, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, let's be real. You can't really hide from music. It's in the world around us constantly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think there has to be, outlets for people who are into that type of thing to at least bring them in a way that inshallah is going to be, spiritually inclined.
And like our goal kind of is never to, because I know like with a lot of kids and stuff, when the sheet artists kind of come on and they say like, we want to replace your other music.
Right.
The first thing that they think is, well, is your music as good as the other music? Right? They start comparing. And the problem with comparisons is that then you start to see the faults in the other thing, right? So then they start picking apart the Nasheed songs and whatever. And even though it's like, it's a super well-intentioned kind of thing, but then they kind of pick it apart and compare and whatever. So like for us, our main thing that we just want to do is that we want to show, especially when it comes to like hip hop, it's possible to make good music in terms of sound and also not have to talk about the usual subject matter that's there. Like that's not necessary, right? Because a lot of people, especially like, in the religious community and stuff, they link the music style with the subject matter and it's one and the same, right? So if it has an 808 and whatever behind it, you're talking about some kind of grotesque whatever.
Drugs or...
you know what I'm saying? And that's not necessarily the case. So, we just kind of want to show people that, like it's possible, and separate the art from the kind of like circumstance, I guess you can say, of like where the individual is from, right? Almost like, and it comes back to like the whole vocals only thing where people get so upset about that, right? They get so upset about that. And I remember Dowd Warnsby said like one time at a concert where he was like, he had his guitar and some people were complaining to him before his show started that like, like he had a guitar and stuff. And he was like, it's kind of sad that, people will speak up this much about a guitar and stuff, but then when their kids want to play with guns or do all this stuff like that with something that's a lot more has like an effect on like the real world and stuff, they're okay with that, right? And it comes from like a really like, especially with like the whole like black styles of music and stuff like that, it's a real cultural thing where anything like the whole like, let's say like open drum, closed drum, all that stuff like that, like anything that has to do with black kind of thing, it's all automatically seen as like degenerate and like grotesque and stuff like that. And I feel like the whole debate, like you said, where you wouldn't argue with somebody about this, right? But a lot of people don't have that stance, where for me, if somebody said, brother, I don't listen to music, I don't listen to instruments or whatever, I'm like, okay, like I understand why, like I get it, right? It's definitely not something where I would like, shame somebody, like, like loser, you don't use it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not it at all. It's just kind of like, it's such a, I'm not trying to like minimize the situation or whatever, but it's not serious enough of a topic to warrant that much hate to be shown to certain people.
It's almost like selective outrage.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing though, it's because it's a very easy thing to go after.
Exactly.
So they're thinking, okay, what is it that I need to spread dawah about or whatever? Like, what is it? Like, I want to attack something or something like that, right? And it's just, you just say the same thing. Music's haram. This, and that, this reason. And if you say anything against it, then they just don't say anything back, because that's all it's such an easy thing to go after, but they don't want to go after issues that take actual thought to solve and try to think. It's just so
easy target. Yeah.
It's such an easy target.
Yeah. And I think that, it is almost like a scapegoat for a lot of social ills, right? We blame everything on the fact kids are listening to music.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the majority of Muslims don't pray. Like that to me is a major issue.
Yeah.
That's like an epidemic that we don't have anyone on street corners, shouting about, our crazy friends in the UK, they go into their parks and they yell at each other. Nobody talks about that. It's not one of those things that, we get that worked up about. I think music, and definitely when we talk about rap and hip hop and it's linked to black culture, that is a trigger enough for people to say, well, 100% it must be haram.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And really, people don't know the history of hip hop either. They don't really even understand like what hip hop originally was, and the fact that it was really it was always political. It was always protest music. It always came from a place of bringing people together to avoid conflict and harm. Right. If you really look at where it comes from, and this is for the real heads, they would know this, that it comes from the same tradition you find in Jamaica. When they have they have these big sound system, big sound clash, and they'll bring out the big systems, and they used to do that so people would stay away from violence, so people wouldn't be, if people are dancing or whatever, they're not killing each other, right? So that same tradition was brought into the U.S. and a lot of where hip hop began in New York, a lot of them were just Jamaican immigrants, and they took the same culture and tradition, and it was meant to be something that was positive and uplifting. It didn't have the same connotations it has today, but again, that's a different discussion. But back to you guys. So being young black artists, do you find that there is a lot of that connotation within just you? I mean, like, forget your music. Is it like as soon as they see you, there's no way? I mean, you got like this half Bob Marley thing going on.
Like,
you got, what I'm saying? You got all this, is it automatically like, well, there's no way this can even be Islamic to begin with?
I mean, like, for me, let's say with my hair, I decided I wanted to just lean into it, where I want to be like unapologetic.
Talking about your hair?
Yeah, it's like unapologetically, unapologetically black. Where it's very true. Where like this one time this thing happened where we performed at an event. Okay, this is when our music was even more explicitly Nasheedi.
Stop playing with the mic, bro.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
Explicitly Nasheedi, and we came off stage, and some brother comes up to me, and he's like, "So are you Muslim?"
Wow.
And I was like, I was just singing.
Our song is called Muslim in the City.
Yeah,
like,
I was just like, whoa. Okay, and there's no way if I was another race that he would ask me that.
Wow.
Right? It's incredible. Like,
that's really
like,
brave of him.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm like, I mean, granted, his other friend was very embarrassed. So like, whatever. I'm not gonna judge, but like.
And what was the context of that? He just thought that because of your hair, you couldn't be Muslim?
He just thought that like. He probably wasn't paying attention to the lyrics, so we came on, we did our rap music and did our thing, and we're black and whatever. And he's just like, "So are you guys Muslim?" Like,
that's random.
It's so like thing.
I've heard of sisters, like black African American sisters, in the masjid wearing hijab. People walk up to them and be like, "Are you guys Muslim?"
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell else would I be doing here?
Yeah.
Why would I be wearing this?
Yeah.
And
so like with a lot of the places that we perform at, they'd be like, "Can you guys not perform this style of music? Can you do this level of energy? Can you this, whatever?"
Can you do a knot?
Yeah.
Do you know knots?
No.
Do you know any knot? Do you even know what a knot is? No? Okay. He's not the brightest tool in the show.
Oh my god.
A knot is like those Urdu like nasheeds that are based on like poems. Yeah. Like, I'm not even gonna pretend to like imitate one because it'll just sound real disrespectful if I do it. 'Cause they sound mad funny though. Like if you hear them, like if you're not used to them, the way people like are in love with them though, like it's like spiritual music for them. They're like poems that they turn into songs. You've heard it 100%. You've heard it. You just didn't know what it was. Yeah. You just thought it was like a Bollywood song in the background. And they sound like that to me, to my layman ear, right? Because I don't know what they're about.
And even like the thing that kind of triggers me the most is when they'll be like, no hip hop or whatever, but then they'll bust out some kind of like, with Maher Zain or whatever, and he'll have like a full on beat, like belly dancing beat almost. And I'm like, listen, not like if it's kind of crude or whatever, but you can bust it down to any type of rhythm, fam. Okay. It doesn't matter what culture it is. So all it is that like with Maher Zain's, like, let's say his stuff, where like, what's his wedding song that he has? There's one that they love to play at all these events, and
not even a wedding song. It's literally just flat out just a love song.
Yeah, and it's like, but it's in Arabic, so it's a little bit more. It's halal, all that stuff like that, whatever. Then we want to come over here. We want to do our R&B. We want to do our hip hop. It's the same subject matter, if not more Islamic, but it's making people uncomfortable, and it's a whole thing, right?
You want to know what's even worse is that what happens is when non-black people, Muslims, come and make black music, like when non-black Muslims rap, no one finds a problem with it.
Yeah,
Like, no
they
one-
get
no one
so much
cares.
more opportunities and get accepted into so many more places because like the image is.
They're
whatever.
so unique. Wow.
Yeah.
Where did they pick that up?
Yeah, you know,
amazing.
it's so Western. It's like, you
Yeah.
know, and so we've kind of gone to a point where we do not care in the slightest. So then usually what happens is when we start seeing that people are kind of having an issue with our blackness, we just go double time and
Oh, you
start.
just make- you
acting-
go-
we
you go
we're
double
extra
black.
black. We're gonna prove a point to you right now.
You go
It's a little-
roots. You go all the way.
yeah, you know, and
That's like-
because it's really something where like a lot of people will be like, oh, but can you just try to be a little more palatable, right? And my whole thing is that
No.
no, yeah, but no, like, you know, if you're gonna ask me to come, like, you've seen our performances, you know what our music is like.
Right.
Don't ask me to come to an event and then switch it up because, right? And we have a pretty diverse discography in terms of sound, so we're savvy enough to know if you're performing at a wedding, you're not going to perform your trap bangers. You're going to do something a little more light, right?
Right.
But the fact that they think that they need to ask us to tone it down a bit, like we won't know to do that because we're just some uncontrollable Negroes, okay?
Yeah.
Like whatever, you know.
Some runaway slaves who found a microphone and
Yeah,
are
and there's always,
beatboxing their
like-
way home.
There's always like super like backhanded compliments, passive aggression, where they'll be like, "Oh, you know, we'll, because sometimes like what we used to do is we'd perform songs in like Urdu and Arabic and stuff, and then
So you guys used to feed into that then.
oh yeah. We definitely got a little, you know, pandering thing
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on,
yeah.
right? And they'd come up after and be like, "Mashallah, like I didn't expect that from you guys or whatever." Even though our grandfather's a sheikh, so like we should be able to know how to pronounce some Arabic words properly, you know. And then even stuff like we'll speak in between songs, and they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to be so articulate," or something. And it's just, what did you think this was? Like, I don't know.
They thought you guys were from the public school system. They
Yeah.
don't know.
They don't
They
know.
don't know.
Exactly.
They don't know.
And there's a whole thing where like, you know, and it's very true where I didn't really get it at first, where the whole thing where like, you know, black people kind of have to work 2 times as hard to kind of prove themselves. So when we're performing, we have to be extra good because, you know, this might kind of sound kind of strange to certain people, but especially when it comes to like hip hop and stuff like that, if a brown person or Arab person comes up and does it even remotely as well as us, they're going to be praised more because it's something unique, right? When we do it, it's not unique. When they do it, it is unique, right? And then, you know, we have to be on like best behavior, right? Because we're a reflection of an entire race, right? Everybody else is a reflection of the individual, right? We need to make sure that, you know, when we're on stage, we're not acting too biggity or whatever and stuff. You need to make sure that, you know, when you talk, you sound civil, okay?
Really?
And all these things where you need to be in like pristine condition just because you know that whatever you do reflects upon the majority, right? And it's this extra kind of weight that you need to carry where it's like that thing, black excellence, where you need to make sure that when the next artist comes up, they'll be like Native Dean, okay? Native Dean did wonders for us because they trailblazed a whole path where when we were coming up and doing our hip hop and stuff, they'd be like, oh, well, they're kind of like the Native Dean guys, so I guess it's okay, right? Even though we were a little bit more modern with our sound, a little more like trap bass and stuff like that, they could still draw it back to that so that, you know, there was a path for us.
But also, Native Dean is very palatable.
Yeah, exactly. Like they had to do their own thing to kind of trailblaze
Yeah.
whatever, and then we're kind of doing it a little bit higher in that kind of thing, and then maybe the next person will go up a step above.
Next person will just be, if they're after you,
yeah,
I don't know what's left, brother.
yeah.
It'll just be like yelling, straight trap music. Just-
No, it'll be a punk band. It'll be a halal punk band. That's it. And they've had those in the past, by the way. Halal
Really?
punk, Muslim punk bands. I wouldn't say halal punk bands, but they've had like Muslim rock and roll. You never heard about
I
that?
had
They had
no
them in like
idea that was a
ISNA,
thing.
a while ago, like ISNA in the
Damn.
U.S. Yeah, it's kind of wild.
No, but it's funny because the whole black people have to work twice as hard thing, we were kind of sheltered from that being homeschooled.
Yeah.
You didn't know that black people had to work twice as hard. You just thought
Like-
black people had to just be normal.
We
We
were in
knew
our
about
bubble. We were in
racism
our
and all that
bubble,
stuff,
right? Like,
obviously, right? Like our grandfather obviously schooled us about the whole history and stuff like that, right?
Right.
But like a part of the reason we were homeschooled is because our mom wanted to protect us from that, basically.
Yeah, like the
right?
whole like black youth self-esteem issues
Issues.
that happen all where you
The
get
ones
like,
that we all have.
yeah, exactly.
That I'm still struggling with.
yeah, pretty much. She didn't want that to happen to us, so she homeschooled us, right? So like obviously we still knew about racism, we still knew about prejudice, we still knew about all this stuff, right? But like, it hasn't yet affected us until we started.
It hasn't ruined your core.
Yes, until we started.
You know what?
Music.
It's so real. Like, there's nothing worse than I think being. I mean, there's many things worse. I wouldn't say nothing worse, but being a young black man in public school. I'll tell you just one quick story. It just sums up my experience in school. I was put in like remedial, like I forget what they call it now, but like lower learning. You know, like they have academic studies.
Yeah.
And what's the lower one called again?
You're
still in high school. Or,
practical, is it?
No. I forget. But it's like, you know, you have the basic academic and then there's like a step lower, which is like for people that don't want to pursue it at a university level.
Yeah,
or
it's
whatever.
the college one. There's
the college
college
level. I was put into college levels. I never even had a choice.
Wow.
They would just see me and they would see my friends and they'd be like, okay, well, like, let's be real. Like, yeah, I mean, you know, we know where he's going to end up, right?
Yeah.
So, and that does a lot to you mentally. Like, as a young guy, you just figure, oh, well, they think I'm stupid. They think I'm like this. So let me just be like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that self-esteem thing, it's real. And it carries on into the rest of your life. And there's a lot of, like, internal, like, digging you need to do to give yourself worth. You know, to really make yourself feel like you belong in certain spaces. Exactly. Even from when I could remember, like my parents are immigrants and I don't even speak their language at all. Like my language skills and their tongue is very weak. So English was always my first language and I spoke very good. And it was just a shock to people to be like, wow, you speak well. It's almost like Planet of the Apes. Like when the monkey first talks, they're like, what? Like you can talk? You know? So, and I think that your experiences, you know, being sheltered, quote unquote, or being homeschooled did maybe allow you guys to have a bit more confidence.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, than a lot of kids typically would have had. And I see that in a lot of students, especially who go to like Islamic school. My kids go to Islamic school, right? I have nothing against Islamic schools. But I know that we do a lot to kind of damper kids, especially, you know, black kids. I feel like we do a lot to really take away from those ambitions and those hopes and dreams by... You know, especially in Islamic school, you know, there's certain rules, expectations. You're supposed to walk this way, talk that way. Not even Islamic things. It was just, you know, just cultural things that we kind of baggage onto people. And it does a lot to your own self-esteem. So do you think being homeschooled has really kind of helped shape your personalities?
For sure.
We have
like
unbridled confidence.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that, we probably would have quit a long time ago.
It's a strange kind of thing where, you know, a lot of people kind of will like ask us certain questions in a way where it's like, you know, when we do a certain sound of, let's say back then when our older brother was there, when we do like Urdu songs and like Arabic songs, whatever, it's almost like, how did you have the audacity to do that? Like you actually think that you're able to come up, sing, what was the song? It was
Allahi
Allah Kiya Karo. Okay. Sing that
You
song.
still know the words?
Allahi Allah Kiya Karo.
Yeah, we heard that one already. That was the title.
That's all I know.
That's it,
okay. I can't remember.
Okay.
Anyway, but we'd come and we'd perform that in front of like bare brown people and all that, and they'd be like, "Wow, like I can't believe,
brave.
Like, whoa, like you actually like okay, like cool, whatever." And the thing is with us is that when we were doing it, we didn't think anything of it.
You didn't know you weren't allowed to do it.
Yeah, we didn't know like it would be weird if we decided to sing in another language. Like, who cares? Like, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's this thing where like, you know,
like
we just we don't really care.
a lot of black kids growing up in public school and like in like proper social settings and stuff like that are always forced to see themselves as black.
Yeah.
So their race and their skin color is always forced upon them, right? So it's always like you're black. So I guess what I'm trying to say is growing up sheltered, we didn't see ourselves as, I don't want to say we didn't see ourselves as black, but like it wasn't our identity.
Like essentially if we were to describe ourselves, black wouldn't be one of the things that we'd put in there in like the first like 3 or 4 words, right? It would be different things first.
And you find that a lot with a lot of other races who have a strong like
identity
within themselves, right? But a lot of black youth out there, their identity is that they're black.
So you guys were like black privileged.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, it also reflects in our music where we would we have hip hop songs, right? But the thing is when we perform and how we act and stuff, we don't act like we're thugs or like we're gangster, like at all, right? And
Yeah, I'm the biggest nerd alive.
Yeah, he has a Legends of Zelda.
This is
t-shirt
a Legends
on
of
right
Zelda
now.
t-shirt right now.
You're a big nerd.
Yeah.
That's official.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where like a lot of people, like there's one thing that people do to just I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way all the time is when they come up and they greet me and they intentionally do like a yo what's up my G. Cause I don't speak like that, okay? Like, and especially if you don't know me and you're just assuming that that's how I talk, right? Just because of that. Or they'll try to act extra like, we'll
swag.
We'll perform on stage.
Throw it on a bit thicker.
Yeah, like, and I'm just like, and everybody does, man. It'll be like a 40-year-old Arab man will do that to me. Call me bro. You don't call people bro, fam. We know this, okay? Just like, stop, right? And it's that kind of thing where like, you can just tell that they had preconceived notions about you. And the thing is with us is like you were saying, where like, you get conditioned to the point where you decide to just lean into it and like accept that. And for us, we'll go like exact opposite way, right? Where it's whatever you don't want us to do, okay, we're gonna do that, right? So it's like, let's say when we were making a lot of hip hop songs consecutively and people were starting to call us a hip hop act, which we are not. We wouldn't call ourselves just hip hop, right? So now on this new album, we have songs that are like pop rock, pop R&B, just a bunch like dance hall, just a bunch Afrobeat, bunch of different stuff, just to make sure that people can't pin us down, right? Us on like one kind of like genre.
Basically, our mom hated labels,
Yeah.
and so she'd never label us. And then growing up now, we don't like labels either. We don't want to be pinned down to one thing, right? So like, we don't like being labeled.
Yeah.
So we just do whatever.
So
we
I
want.
mean, when you were young though, like how did you guys identify? Obviously, you had a very strong Islamic upbringing. Did you see yourselves differently from
our brown friends?
Yeah,
and
your
our
friends. Or,
Straight up, like we had a couple of Somali friends that we knew, but we didn't see them often. And besides them, it was just pure like Arabs and brown people that we grew up with.
from where? Like just in the masjid or like
Masjid, homeschooling community.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're right. So you guys are part of like the Muslim homeschooling
Schoolers.
network kind of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah, yeah.
and that's like its own like secret mafia, like all these moms in minivans,
Yep.
just
Yeah,
meeting
exactly.
together.
On the Odysseys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only had one pretty much black friend that I grew up with.
Was it your brother?
No, like another one.
Oh, another
Just,
one,
like,
okay.
One of my mom's friends' son.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up with him a lot
Right,
and stuff
right,
like
right.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
he moved to America now. Sad.
And
So now you have no friends.
Yeah.
Now it's just your brother.
Yep.
so what it kind of would be was that like we would always in our home where we would spend most of our time, it would be this reinforced kind of like nurturing confidence, all that stuff. And then as soon as you step out into the real world, doesn't matter who you with. Like we've grown up being the token black person in every single situation. Okay. And then like there's like sometimes there'll be like Somalis, right? But then there's some Somalis who don't like being called black. Okay. And they'll be like, I'm not like you.
They think they're Arabs.
I'm dark Arab. Okay.
Dark Arab. We've run into a few of those. Yeah.
So yeah, you're always a token black person in a situation. And then what kind of happens is that you would start to become conscious of the fact that you're different, right? And it'd be this weird sensation where like I would leave a function with like my friends or whatever, and when I'd head home, I'd be like, the first thing that they'd always talk about is your race. And the first thing that they'd address about you is your race or this, that, la, 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 whatever, right? And then after, you'd go home and you'd hang around your family, whatever, and then, you'd be deprogrammed a bit, and then you'd go back out. And then the more you spent out in the real world, the more this would kind of like dawn upon you, right? Where it would get to a point where like, I had like image issues where I'd be like, oh, I wish I had like straight hair or this or that or whatever. Yeah, that was actually a
You
thing.
wish you had straight
Yeah, I
hair?
did. I wish I had straight hair. I wish I was lighter skinned. I wish it was whatever and all that stuff. And it's only come to like a point now where like I'm completely secure in all that stuff. And all of that just comes from the fact that we had representation growing up in certain things. So like, our dad is a pretty successful businessman, like computer programming and all that stuff, where it wasn't anywhere near he's pretty whitewashed, so it wasn't anywhere near like
My dad's like the whitest black person.
the stereotypical black kind
Right.
of person, right? So our first ever like role model of a black man wasn't what a lot of people have, right? Where it's like, oh, athlete, rapper, this, whatever. And what's funny with us is that we technically fall under the stereotypical black person, where like we're music artists, right? That's the typical kind of like thing or whatever. But we really try to tell people that, like, you know, first of all, we're in school, okay? I'm in third year university, okay? Just so everybody knows.
Just so all the sisters out there know, he's capable of providing in a year and a half, inshallah.
He's in marketing. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
He's a marketing degree? Oh, yeah.
I'm joking.
But nah, so like, you know, when people always try to tell, especially like, you know, like the black kids and stuff like that, like, you know, it goes two ways. Either they're completely into the stereotypes or they're like completely against it, where it's like, you're not going to do anything remotely black. Okay. Our parents were like that a little bit, where like we weren't allowed to wear hats for like until I was like 16.
What's the issue with
baseball
hats?
baseball
Baseball
caps.
caps.
Yeah.
Why? Just because it
it's too
represented...
hoodlum.
You look
Really?
like a thug.
Well, people
right?
who play baseball wear them.
But they're white.
No, everyone plays
I
baseball.
don't know.
Yeah,
it was
Puerto
a weird
Ricans,
thing.
a lot of
I
people play
can't
baseball.
rationalize. I honestly
Yeah,
can't.
No,
okay.
here's the thing. It wasn't just baseball. It was like just caps, right?
Okay.
Like my mom didn't like us wearing them because, again, the homeschool group she was a part of and that she created and stuff like that, all of them were brown. So when we'd go places, like my mom just didn't want us to be.
Yeah.
She was trying to shelter us from.
She didn't want you to
prejudice
feel
and
the wrath.
Feel the wrath of racism.
Yeah. You know, it's weird in a way. My son has very long hair.
Yeah.
And my wife said, "Oh, why don't I braid your hair?" And I told my wife, I'm like, I had absolutely zero issues with getting his hair braided. But I told my wife, I'm like, man, I just don't want him to have to go through it.
Yeah.
Like he goes to an Islamic school, you know, little black kid with braids.
Yeah, that's gonna
like
be
That's gonna be
you
tough.
know,
Like, remember what happened to Lookie, right? Where
Yeah, my friend, right? So my best friend, right?
Okay.
The one black friend I know.
Yeah.
He went to IIT
Oh, okay.
for school for a bit, right? And he got a faux hawk, a very small faux hawk. He goes there one day, the teacher's like, "That's haram." He's like, "That's haram. You have to shave it. Tell your mom to shave it." He goes back home to his mom and he's like, "Mom, I have to shave it." And his mom's like, "Why?" And then he's just like, "Just cause." He's like, "I need to cut my hair."
And did he cut it?
No. His mom flipped out on the teacher.
His mom wasn't playing games.
His mom
huh?
wasn't playing any games. And then he
Okay.
left the school.
Oh.
And he went to public school.
Yeah, and it's like
Wow.
even like with me with like dreads, there are not a lot of Muslim people out here, especially in like these certain communities with dreads. Certain
Are those
people-
really dreads though? Because there's something else going on. There's like the weekend
Nah,
slash
see,
the
I
Jummah.
need to get it redone.
Okay,
that's why.
because
They're not
kind of
looking
on the
too great
side.
now. Yeah, it's their own style.
Okay.
He's trying to be Michael B. Jordan from
yeah,
Black
exactly.
Panther.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's
Yeah,
what it is,
yeah,
man. I'm
yeah,
telling
yeah.
you, representation matters. Man.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of a thing where, again, and I don't want to chalk it up to like, oh, like racism, whatever. It's just cultural differences. So people will be like,
But it is anti-black racism.
It is anti-black
because
yeah,
it's specifically targeting black culture.
Yeah.
It's not like they have a prejudice against even any other person. And if for example we all adopted like Irish culture.
Yeah.
You know, we all just started drinking Guinness and being hooligans. I don't know, not to stereotype all Irish people, but whatever.
Attack the
What, you know what I'm
entirety
saying?
of Ireland.
Whatever they do, if we
Yeah.
all were to start copying that, I don't think there would be as much problem.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't like to, like, when stuff happens, I don't like to say, like, oh, that one person is racist. It's just, this is how they grew up and this is how the system and all that stuff made them think of us. So it's subconsciously taught to them that when you see this, you react this way. And I feel like that's what happens with a lot of the police shootings, right? Like, yeah, that one officer might have been racist, but the system made him think one way. So when he sees a black man, then danger. And
Have you guys ever been in bad situations with police?
No.
Not yet.
Not
Our uncle's
yet.
a police officer.
Oh, so you're good.
Yes.
So you really are black privileged. You guys live in a different world than me. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yo, let me tell you, my first time interacting with the police, I was in middle school. It was in the summer break between elementary school and middle school. It was from grade 6 to 7. I was riding my bike near my house, and a group of police officers swarmed me. Okay, I'm talking about like cruisers. They all came around me and they surrounded me. Get on the ground. I was riding a bike. They
Yeah.
threw my bike on the ground. They said, "We need some identification." I was like, yo, I'm 12 years old. I don't have any ID. I had a library card that said I had like a Blockbuster card. I don't even have an ID, right? And they told me that, after they told me that, oh, someone did something in the area and you look like the person, you fit the description, right? That's the line they always throw at you. And from then on, I was terrified of police my whole life, even to this day. I'd be driving with my wife and I'll see I'm doing nothing wrong. I'm driving my car and I'll see a cop and I'm like, all right, slow down. Let's park in here. Let's just wait till he goes by. Yeah. Right. So that trauma, because it really is a form of trauma that we experience, growing up as Black people in North America, and not just North America, and in all over the world. It's something that doesn't go away very easily. But I think you guys, I really commend your family, and you're obviously, I think it started with your grandfather, really, who's instilled that that feeling of dignity within you guys, that you don't have to kind of feel the same kind of self-doubt and lack of self-worth that many of us felt.
But here's the thing, though, it does spill over. So like you're saying, your traumas with police, like it's trauma, right? And like now when you see a police, you get like frightened. I still get like that as well. I've never had a problem with the police. My uncle's a police officer. But when I see police, I'm like,
just in case.
Yeah. Because I have stories. I've heard friends that had the same kind of interaction. So it does spill over the trauma.
Well,
right?
of course. No. And it's part of the culture in which we live in, right? And I think that hopefully, inshallah, your generation and above and beyond, just like you guys are seeing yourselves now kind of leading a path for younger artists and younger Muslims. I hope that our children and, especially those who grew up in this part of the world, they'll be more confident in who they are and to pursue that in different capacities. It doesn't have to necessarily be music. It can be, math or science or whatever the case might be. But, hopefully, inshallah, they can do it with ihsan and still not forgetting ultimately that they are Muslims.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's like one thing where we're really trying to work on with the whole like Jamtem thing, where like just allowed to express myself, where like a lot of people kind of struggle with the whole Muslim identity thing, right? Where, especially with guys, where like, like a lot of the sisters, you're visibly Muslim.
Right.
Like
if you wear hijab.
99% of the time, if you wear hijab. So 99% of the time, you're a Muslim right away. With guys, like I could walk down the street and nobody would guess, right? So then it's the kind of thing where, because you can blend in so easily, you have a lot of choices to make on where you'll go, what you'll do, whatever, right? And what we're basically trying to do is that a lot of people have an issue with lack of representation for Muslims, especially in the arts, which is something like with music, it's so visible and it's so present in our like daily lives, right? And people will complain often saying, oh, why isn't there any Muslim representation? Why isn't there this? Why isn't there that? But then also at the same time be gatekeepers for what is permissible and what isn't with under like the Muslim banner for the arts, right? So then it's this kind of thing where there's such a clear yearning for that, but then everybody makes it so difficult for someone to do that in the first place. Like the whole thing with like, supporting local artists and stuff. Nobody wants to pay for anything, right? Well then, how am I supposed to make an album? Money doesn't grow on trees, yo. Okay, how am I supposed to do that if you're not going to pay the appropriate amount of money for a performance or anything, right? And what we basically kind of want to do is just show people that, within the music industry, within the arts, there's viable careers. You just need to work on your craft a little bit more and have higher goals than just wanting to be a community Nasheed artist or anything like that. Where like really try to like, aim a little bit higher and, kind of take it seriously. Because I remember like, let's say with soccer players, where one of the things that would always kind of make me so happy and fill me up with so much like pride and stuff was when I'd find out that a certain soccer player was Muslim. Right. So let's say, what's the example? Yeah, it's all right. Pretty big like soccer player and stuff. When I found out he was Muslim, I'm like, whoa, like really? And they'd like make dua before like the match would start and whatever. And it would make you feel good. So then the next time somebody would like ask you, oh, so what's your religion? Or are you Muslim? Whatever. Then you wouldn't feel any ways about telling them that because, well, he's a Muslim and people love him, right? That's like Muhammad Ali did that on such a huge scale, right? A huge scale. And I would like to do that, and we would like to do that for like music, where there are examples and certain examples and stuff, but it's very like limited. Let's say like how like Lupe Fiasco is a Muslim, right? But
or
then
DJ Khaled.
But then like there's always some other thing that would kind of make people like, is he really Muslim? Like stuff like that, right? And yeah, we just kind of want to do that. We want to like kind of create a space where Muslims feel okay to kind of express themselves through arts, because it's this weird thing where like you're almost not allowed honesty, especially with music, where like you'll talk about, if you want to talk about like depression or drugs or whatever, like let's use the drugs example, right? Where I remember that Native Dean song about like the anti-drug thing. I remember when we were out with friends or whatever and stuff like that, certain parents or whatever wouldn't want, even our mom wouldn't want them.
We weren't allowed to listen to that
song.
We weren't allowed to listen to that song.
For the longest time,
the anti-drug song.
We weren't allowed to listen to an anti-drug song.
I'm like, when I like years later when I heard the song again, I'm like, why weren't we allowed to like? They were telling us I don't need to get high. That was like one of the chorus of the thing, right? So I'm like, that's something that you'd probably kind of want to like hear, right? And then.
But our mom was just so sheltered. She didn't even want drugs in our mind. Period.
Like, what's a drug?
What's a drug?
Nothing. Shut up. Go to your room.
Yeah. To this day, people will be like, "What did I learn? That like a bogey was a cigarette or something."
Yeah.
I
I mean, I don't know.
I didn't know what that was until like a couple of months ago. But no, yeah. So it's this kind of weird thing where like there's no room for honesty, and you can be real. Like let's say if we're talking about politics, especially like Middle Eastern countries, right? You can be so real, you can be so explicit, you can be like, the children are being bombed and whatever, and that's acceptable, right? But then if you want to talk about, let's say like issues with like pre-marital relationships and stuff, right? All of a sudden it's like but that's something so much more pervasive in the community. It's something you actually would want to talk about.
It's taboo.
Not even, it's just that. Yeah, it's taboos, right? Like you're not allowed to talk about struggling with your faith in any kind of way or anything that will be slightly anti-religious, right? Well, not even that saying you're promoting anti-religious, that's you're struggling with that thing within yourself, right? Like, and a lot of the times depression and anxiety and mental health issues are very stigmatized in the Muslim community, right? They're like, if you have depression, you are not a believer. Like, that's literally what they say,
by
right?
the way, that was a very popular statement to make.
Yeah.
Like a few years ago, like they would say, you can't be depressed if you're a mu'min.
Yeah. Right. So, and then what would happen is that these kids growing up, the youth would, like, music and art is such a strong, like, thing for humans growing up and like connecting with people through the arts to find relatability and to find like a connection with something, right? So what would happen is they would be struggling with these things, and then they'd hear the songs and all the other arts, and the people in the songs would be like, be a good Muslim, you're perfect, I'm perfect, everyone's perfect. And the kid will be like, well, I'm not perfect. So does that mean I'm just hopeless?
And then all of a sudden, you don't relate to it.
Fall
so
off.
then, like, when you're listening to some of these, like, the Nasheed.
I am not afraid to stand alone. What if I am afraid to stand alone?
Like,
where does that leave me?
Yeah, and, like, there's times where, like, because I asked a lot of my friends on, like, do you listen to Nasheed music? If not, why? And one of the main answers was that they didn't feel good listening to it. And you don't want to, people don't like doing things that doesn't make them feel good, right? And I was thinking, I'm like, why don't you feel good listening to the Nasheed artists? Because why? Because it makes them feel like, sad and almost like, God, what's the word? Like they're not good enough.
Okay.
Right?
Guilty.
Like guilty, yes, guilty.
It makes
them
guilty.
feel very guilty. And so, like, with our music, we never do, like, a whole thing of, like, I am. It's always I'm trying to be. Right. So instead of guilty, it's a feeling of motivation instead. Right. Where like it's something to strive towards. And I'm telling you, the listener, that I'm just like you and I'm also trying to strive towards it. I'm not there yet.
You're a waste man. So I'm a waste man.
So let's be less waste together.
Let's be waste together.
But let's be honest, like almost every adolescent struggles with their faith in high school.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
In teenage years, right?
Yeah,
And
even beyond.
Worse, even beyond. And it gets even worse if you're in public school and in places where everyone else isn't Muslim. You're just like,
even in Catholic school.
Yeah.
I mean, the Muslims in Catholic school.
Yeah, obviously.
There's a lot of them, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I have a lot of friends who went to Catholic school.
Yeah, surprisingly. That's like the lesser of the two evils in some parents' minds. It's like,
It's
okay,
really
if I'm not
not.
going to send... It's just as bad, if not worse.
That's public school,
because,
yeah.
your child has to go to Catholic school and, like, learn the Lord's Prayer
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But I want to wrap up, inshallah. You guys give me a lot of things to think about, a lot of good insight. If people want to find you guys online, what's the best way to do so? Where are you guys at?
Facebook, Mustaqeem, Mustaqeem. On Instagram, it's Mustaqeem Official. On Twitter, Mustaqeem Official.
No,
YouTube.
isn't Twitter real Mustaqeem or
Oh,
something?
yeah.
We don't use Twitter.
Okay.
Oh,
we're
Twitter's
trying
dead,
to.
huh?
We're trying to. It's not dead. We're trying to.
Okay.
YouTube, Mustaqeem Official as well. We just released our album, I think,
Jam 10,
2 months ago now.
month and a half.
Yeah.
On all
Titled
streaming
Your
services.
time
Jam
frames
10.
are off, huh? What's going on?
Yo,
You're
it's
getting
nighttime.
old.
Okay, yes. Oh my God, 21 years.
So, not crazy yet?
You're gonna have great dreads soon.
Exactly. Yeah. So available on all streaming services. We have a couple music videos out. You can watch that.
Everything's on YouTube.
Everything's on YouTube, and yeah, we also have merch, Jam Tem shirts and all that. We're trying to start a little thing, so look out for that.
Trying
And yeah, we're trying to eat. And final message: support local artists, so that they
But
can
what if they live in another place? Then you're not local.
support all artists.
There you go.
that
Support
like.
us.
Yeah.
Just say what you want
Give
to say.
me your money. don't worry about them.
Yeah.
Give me your money.
Yeah.
Because I want it.
Yeah. So they can find you online and they can download your album and they
Yes,
can
for
purchase
sure.
it, all that good stuff. So Zakumullah khairan, guys, for joining me. And I
Thank
think
you
this
so much
time
for
was
having
much
us.
better than last time.
I think
Yes,
so
sir.
too.
So I'm
Yeah.
happy that we screwed up the first time. Not
For
we, the other guy.
The other guy.
Yeah,
The other guy,
yeah.
He's gone. He's
His
gone.
name is
Anub. His name is Anub. He's a very, very bad brother.
Anub.
But alhamdulillah,
Yeah,
he's
he's the worst.
repenting. He's coming.
Yes.
He's coming. He went to public school, so that's probably the reason why. Anyways, everyone, Zakumullah khairan for paying attention and staying tuned on this episode. Hopefully, we'll see you again next time. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.